Okay, Rastafari, continuing from where we left off with 40 years that the hands of the Ethiopian nation has been under aliens and other governments. First the Derg, and now the hands of the EPRDF. And I want to take a time out to give a testimony written by I brother Rastafari, and give y'all his testimony of what he said, what was the covert war in Ethiopia was. You know, if you haven't gotten your hands on it yet, please do so. If you want to understand the other half that hasn't been told behind the coup against His Majesty. And I want to read a couple of pages. You know, want to read a couple of pages of what our brother's book says on the dirge. Hold on for a second. Alright. So here we are. The man that you see there as the leader of the Dirge, Mengetsu Haile, the traitor. Okay. So I just want to start down here. Around 1973, Babylon decided to play the greatest deceptive game ever played when they conspired against His Majesty and the godless creeping coup. They first decided to send a certain journalist named Jonathan Dembele, who worked for the BBC and who for many years prior vainly praised the Ethiopian monarchy, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie Rastafari. So he came to Ethiopia not with the intention of making a positive documentary on the king. He instead went north to Tigray, and the provinces hit by the famine and drought, which we knew at that time was from Wyndham Yardim's video, was a complete and total lie, because it showed that during that time with His Majesty and the government, that the food production in Ethiopia was massive. You know, the famine was not real. Yes, there were certain areas where there will be no rain and there may have been a shortage of food, but that was always common in Ethiopia. So, continue here. But the film of His Imperial Majesty was juxtaposed. It was basically tampered with, you know. They made a negative sense out of it. They showed His Imperial Majesty, they tried to show him being greedy. You know, they said he was hiding money in Swiss bank accounts and everything. He had pounds in Britain, all a lie, you know. We're back here. And also, what many didn't know at the time was that Ethiopia, they always had, the minister of His Imperial Majesty said at the time, for many years, we had famine on the land. Just grows dry, and a drought happens. And then a rain comes, and things grow, then drought happens again, and people die from starvation. That's just how Ethiopia always been. You know, when you're coming out of biblical ages into the modernization, things ain't gonna, just magically appear, But many of the journalists that came to Ethiopia at the time wanted to see the northern provinces that were hit by this drought. It wasn't a famine, it was a drought. The minister told them no, that the roads leading there had bandits and that it was not safe. But the minister knew why they wanted to go up there, to make a case that His Majesty was causing all this death around Ethiopia while he enjoys material wealth. The documentary called The Unknown Famine has turned many against His Majesty, as it was shown in London, and everyone right away conspired against His Majesty. And I said earlier, be sure to check out on our Wyndham Jobbins video. It gets into how the government was conspiring against Ethiopia at that time because all the prosperity that was happening. Kennedy gave his testimony at the train station when he said that within the span of 10 years, 29 African countries was liberalized from colonialism. And during that time, Ethiopia had a sovereign bank with its own currency. All the infrastructure being made, all the education, all the uprising. Ethiopia was going to be the most powerful nation in the world. It is the most powerful nation. But in terms of, during that time, world dominance, what was happening was too fast for the West. It was too fast. And now that you done got the cat out, the mice are playing. And I want to move back to the blog page to speak on what has happened. It's been 40 years since your revolution. 40 years, and you have been in the hands of the dirge and the EPRDF. Let's get into what the dirge did, as they adopted their satanic policies, and they declared the Red Terror in 1977. I know that gives many of them old Ethiopian shivers. Ethiopia entered a new phase of chaos, and a civil war started in the trail with the EPRP, the TPLF, Tigray, and the EPLF, the EDU, and the OLF, as they all opposed and engaged in an armed struggle to overthrow the dirge. And the famine that came in 1984 and 85, that didn't help the regime politics, which Ethiopians testified was the worst living in memory. You read the scripture in Lamentations 5:9 from the famine. Hundreds of thousands of people died of starvation due to it. Finally, in 1991,